All right, here we go. Hello and welcome to Strawberries 1, which suggests that there will be a Strawberries 2, which we'll talk about later. But tonight we will be talking about processing, dehydrating, and freezing strawberries. Thank you so much for joining us and spending your time with us tonight. My name is Laura Shanley. I'll be the MC tonight. Our Q&A moderator is Deborah Hartnett, though she's having some technical difficulties, so she may or may not be your Q&A moderator tonight. If she can't get in, then I'll be helping with the Q&A. Our panelists tonight that will be presenting the materials are Bobby Green and Joy Akonge. Just you probably saw the notification a second ago when I started the recording that this program is being recorded, and a copy of the slide deck will be emailed to anyone who completes the post-event survey. So please do complete that survey. We'll give you a reminder at the end. That really does help us to refine and improve our content and delivery. So once you submit the survey, then you will get the slide deck. A few housekeeping things before we get into the material about strawberries. So first of all, just Zoom housekeeping, please keep your mic muted if you're not speaking. We do invite live questions, so if you'd like, just unmute and speak up, or you can raise your Zoom hand by clicking on that React button, and then there's a button that says raise hand, and we'll call on you. You're welcome to ask questions throughout. However, we will also have opportunities throughout the presentation to ask your questions live. If you don't want to ask your question live or you're feeling a little shy, you can at any time submit a question or a comment in the Q&A feature. So you would see the Q&A on the bottom of your Zoom screen, but if you don't see that, what you would do is just click on that More button, and then the menu that pops up would show you the Q&A feature. So please do use the Q&A feature for any questions. Please don't use the chat. We prefer that you use the Q&A feature. And again, you're welcome to just speak up during the discussion if you like, and we will have some moments where we will pause and invite you to ask questions. So who are we? Who are you hearing from tonight? The UC Master Food Preserver online program. We're a community outreach online based. We do all of our teaching online. We're a grant-funded volunteer program within the University of California Division of Agriculture and Natural Resources. And we provide up-to-date research-based information on food safety and presentation or preservation. Our mission is to keep Californians safe and well as they use culturally appropriate research-based practices. You'll notice that that research-based practices piece was highlighted in the last slide and this slide. It's a very key component of our mission because we want to make sure we're safely preserving food in the home, we're reducing food waste, increasing food security, and providing engaging ways for Californians to explore healthy food. One last slide before we move on to the good stuff. Just a quick disclaimer. I have to read this word for word. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the speaker's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of the University of California. The University of California name and all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owner, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service. All right, so all of that is out of the way. Let's get into it. What will we be talking about today? First, we'll be talking about processing strawberries. Then Joy will talk to us about dehydrating strawberries, and Bobby will be talking about freezing strawberries. All right, so let's get going. Oh, you're on mute there, Bobby.
Mute. There.
There you
I'm
go.
unmuted. Oh, good. Thank you so much for your patience. Today we're going to talk about what a strawberry is and how to select them. We're going to talk about preparing them for preservation before we dehydrate and freeze, and then some ideas for using the strawberries. And welcome everybody too. I should have said that first. Go ahead. Next. First of all, what is a strawberry? I think the first answer people come up with is a fruit, but it actually isn't. Not as in, not as we see it. It's from the rose family. It's not a berry. It's a false fruit, but each of those little bitty bits of flesh that are holding on to the seeds, they are each seeds. So they are a fruit. So this strawberry is an accumulation of hundreds of strawberries, but in itself, it's not a fruit. Akene is the word for the false fruit. Go ahead, next. Selecting the best strawberries. Um, Whether you're looking at the farmer's market or you're looking in your garden or at a local fruit stand, you want to always choose your strawberries firm, red. They will not continue to ripen after you pick them. So anything that's white or green will remain so, and it won't have that full flavor of a strawberry. Inspect your strawberries for damage, for mold or decay. You don't want to use anything that has mold or decay on it. You'll toss that entire strawberry. If you have damage, though, of course, you could always just cut off the damaged part and freeze it in a way that's appropriate for a part of a strawberry. The decision of how you want to preserve your strawberries will depend on the fruit itself, whether it's big or small or if it's in really good shape. Go ahead to the next slide, please. Um, Joy, you want to take it from there?
Sure. Why do you want to preserve strawberries? There's a lot of reasons to do it. You want to preserve the flavor, you want to eat like it's summer all year long, and of course, you want to avoid food waste. And one of the things is for strawberries, they're a very delicate fruit. Also, we tend to get them in like big batches, and they're very delicate. And once moisture gets on them, the time's ticking for when you want to use it. So that's those are just a few reasons to do it. And Bobby and I are going to talk about freezing and dehydration specifically today. Um, but one of the big things for master food preservers, next slide, please, is preparing them. And for master food preservers, we always talk about food safety first. And we always talk about sanitizing your tools and your surfaces before preparation. You want to wash your hands thoroughly before handling. You can use gloves if you have any cuts on your hands. I actually have eczema. I'm prone to eczema on my hands. And working with even things like strawberries, there's some acid in there. So, like, if you have anything that's going to hurt you, you might want to just put gloves on. But you don't have to as long as you wipe down your work surfaces frequently and you wash your hands throughout processing. Next, Bobby.
Next, you're going to wash and dry and sort your strawberries. You want to wash your strawberries under cool running water when you're ready to use them. Don't wash them until you're ready to use them. You don't want to soak them, kind of, I guess you would say, in their own dirt. And that is something that I thought was the way to do it before I became a master food preserver. You want to pat them dry carefully and thoroughly. I actually leave mine on the counter for a few minutes too for that last little bit of water to evaporate that I couldn't get to. And our pro tip is store your strawberries. Next slide, please. First thing you're going to need to do is hull the strawberries. That's removing the green stem. And you can use a paring knife, a strawberry huller. Some people say you can use a straw. We didn't really try that, but it does make sense. And then I have a special knife. I don't know if It shows up here very well. But what I like about this, I don't have to have one extra thing in my utensil drawer, and it's very sharp all the way around the corner at the end. And so it's a great knife for hulling strawberries without causing much waste as I'm doing it. Oh, there's a picture of my knife there. Next slide, please. So when you're storing your strawberries, you're not going to wash them like we said in the last slide. Don't wash them till you're ready to use them. I dry them in a single layer, like I said. There's some controversy over whether or not to use a salad spinner. I think it depends on how firm your strawberries are. If they're just the slightest a bit mushy, I certainly wouldn't want to put them through that kind of trauma. And you don't need a special container. You can use the container that they came in as well to store them.
I think one of the things that kind of came up, because I know there's several articles over the years about whether, you should put a towel between them or a paper towel. I mean, the idea is moisture is not your friend
Mhm.
when it comes to strawberries, right, Bobby?
That's
Um,
right.
so like if they're even slightly wet and they get on your towel, then it's just going to be sitting on a wet kind of on a wet rug, right? So you don't need a special container. You don't need to. You could do the salad spinner if they're firm. They're very firm, and just do it. You know, don't just bat them
Slowly.
around. So
Mhm.
I think that's really the key. Just don't damage them. Be careful with them. You're inspecting them for mold. And then if you make sure they're dry before you put them back in, and then just be careful about them being mushed on top of each other. Um, that's I think those are very basic, easy things. You don't need any special chemicals or anything.
Right. Did you have any questions Deborah?
Deborah's having technical difficulties still, but I
Oh,
don't see any questions yet so far in the Q&A. If anybody
oh,
would like to just take themselves off mute and ask a question, you're welcome to do that now, or we can keep moving, and you can also add your questions to the Q&A as we go.
thanks, Laura. Next slide. Next, Joy is going to talk about dehydrating.
All right. So why would you consider dehydration for strawberries? Well, something that, dehydration has been a thing, one of the oldest ways of preservation for humanity. And for strawberries, it preserves the fruit flavor for long-term use. And in fact, by concentrating the sugars, it actually is more intensifies the flavor when you dry them. It reduces the need for space in the refrigerator or freezer. It reduces your food waste when you get a whole bunch of them. That's an easy way to use them and store them for later if you want to use them in different recipes. And then it enhances it flavors in recipes, and it's just a fun snack. Um, One of the other things too, then Bobby will go into this when she talks about freezing, is that both of these methods slow down oxidation. They slow down microbial activity. In the case of dehydration, it reduces the amount of water in the fruit. And so that slows down any kind of microbial growth that might be, well, water's not your friend with strawberries, is what we said earlier. So if you take the water out, then these microbes can't like have a party on your food. Next.
Next.
So there's three elements for dehydrating at home. One is heat, because you need to force the moisture out of the food, but not enough to cook it. So it's 140 is that point where it'll start cooking if it's higher, but dehydration, you're like in that 130, 140 uh, range, and you need dry air, obviously, to absorb the released moisture, and you need a way for the moisture to be carried out of the space. So airflow is very important. Next. So what you need is, of course, strawberries, a sharp knife, like what Bobby had, a cutting board, gloves, if you're like me, and then, of course, a dehydrator, an airtight container, a food safe desiccant for long-term storage. And I put gloves again because I did. So that's optional. Next. So you can use an oven or you can use kind of a specialized dehydrator appliance. Of course, when you have a dehydrator, it's an upfront investment. It's another thing to store. It does take up storage space and your counter space, but you get precise temperature control and you get more even drying with the airflow, and it's a little more energy efficient than using your oven, and it preserves the color and flavor better. The obviously the advantage is everyone has an oven. If you have, if you want to use that, there's no special equipment, but you need to make sure that your oven goes lower than 140, and that's kind of imprecise. And you'd have to check your manual for your oven to see if that is possible. Otherwise, you're just cooking it. And then there's like uneven drying is more possible and higher energy usage because you're like heating that whole space. Now, if you have a convection oven, that's slightly different. You can use that, but you still need to um, keep the oven door open because you need a place for the airflow. Remember, when you talked about airflow, we need that air to take away the moisture. And I guess that's it. Then what I use is what I use is I have a round, I call my round dehydrator, which is a stackable dehydrator. So there are two major kinds. There's a vertical airflow dehydrator, and you can see from um, the picture that the heating element is from the top and it blows down. There's also another version that where the heating element and the air movement goes up. And then there's these a little slightly more expensive than the stackables, a horizontal airflow. And here's a picture that another master food preserver gave us of hers, and it's kind of fixed. It's a fixed horizontal appliance, and then the shelves come out, but the airflow goes horizontally across the trays, so you don't get as much flavor mixing. If you had like different kinds of things on the different racks, you wouldn't get a lot of flavor mixing. And then also it just has a little higher capacity because you can fit a lot more in that box. And it's a little bit more even drying because as you can imagine, if you have a stackable, the ones closer to the heating element and the air element are going to get drier than the ones far away. So I end up having to check and rotate those trays. But it's really not that big of a deal when you're talking about like an 8 to 12 hour process. Next. So for dehydrating strawberries, you want to wash and dry. Then slice evenly, about a 1/4 inch thick. That depends on how good you are. With strawberries, I don't recommend the mandolin because then you get this weird little chunk. And ask me how I know that. Yeah, then you end up with like a really thick part in the middle. Then you arrange the slices on a single layer on the trays. Don't overlap them. Set the dehydrator to 130, 135. My dehydrator said 135, and you need to read the directions for fruit for your dehydrator because it might be slightly different. You can dry it for 8 to 10 hours, and you flip them halfway. I am kind of lazy, so I just rotated my trays a couple times during the period, and mine ended up being about 8.5 hours. And then you check for doneness, which is halfway between brittle and leathery. So it shouldn't snap, but it should like bend a little bit, but you should not feel any kind of moisture in the pieces. Next. And this is a picture of kind of a before and after. So there's the fruit on the left that I cut. Then that's when it was done drying. And then I will have my thing here. So I have this clamshell, if you can see this, ended up becoming this, which is on the screen. So as you can see, it like doesn't take up much space. And if I had decided to powder this, it would become even like, teenier. Next. So you're done. You've got your 8.5 hours. You're really excited. You tested your piece, but you're not done yet. You need to pay attention. So this is the part that I did not know personally before I became master fruit preserver. And there's something called conditioning. So you need to let the fruit cool before transferring it to an airtight container. That's pretty, common sense. If you put it in hot, it's going to make condensation, and then bad things are going to happen in there. There's just going to be things are going to be cooking in there. What you want to do is called conditioning. And what you do is for 7 to 10 days after drying, you just shake it, shake it. And what it does is it equalizes the moisture between all the pieces, because some pieces you may not, well, if you have great knife skills, then you might have like even pieces, and I do not. So it's good to equalize the moisture. And you do that for long-term storage. Then after that, I'll transfer this to another container, and I'll put it in with, and I won't open this. And I shook my desiccant down to the bottom. And this is like a desiccant that you can buy. You can get like a whole bunch of them for not that much money. And you want to look for a food safe desiccant packet. And then you want to label your storage containers with the name and date. And it has a shelf life up to 1 year. But to be honest, if you keep it cool, dry, dark, you could put it in a Mylar bag with food desiccant. It will last a lot longer, but you want it dark because it'll eventually start to degrade either with color, and it won't have the best flavor um, unless you eat it right away. But it will still be good. Next. Oh, that was my one animation, and that's all I know how to do in PowerPoint just to show you to shake it. Next.
I liked it. That was good. That was great.
Thanks, Laura. Okay, so common dehydration mistakes is not using the best fruit, slicing too thick or unevenly, overlapping slices during dehydration. You don't want to do that. And then afterwards, like storing it in humid environments is not great. You want to keep it as dry as possible because we're looking at, again, moisture is not your friend here, and not drying it thoroughly, which will lead to mold. And if it's not dry enough, and not you take all the pieces that are dry, and you can dehydrate some more. There's no penalty. Next. Any questions?
Hey,
I
all
put
right.
Very
That,
thorough,
Q&A.
Joy.
it looks like, did we have somebody come off mute there?
Yeah, this is owner. My name is actually London. I can't get my software to put my name in there. Anyway, I have two questions that I just put into the Q&A.
Oh,
Fantastic. Do you want to ask them or do you want me to ask them for you?
Do you mind?
I don't mind. Okay. All right. We have a couple questions here. Let's start with this. First, what recommendation do you have for a dehydrator, Joy? You talked about a couple different kinds. She prefers as low tech as possible. She feels like every electronic one just fails at some point. She watched a video about 3 ways to dry tomatoes. A dehydrator, oven, or outside, protected by a bug-proof cover, and the outside produced the best flavor and texture. So, any
and Bobby,
additional thoughts?
you can jump in here, but I like my round dehydrator, and yes, it may fail at some point, but I'll tell you that I live on the Monterey Bay, and it is in Aptos where it's foggy and humid, and you can't do outside sun drying here. It's too humid here. So that's not really an option for me. I know, Bobby, you live more
Right.
inland,
I
so
live
that
in the
could be
Central
possible.
Valley, and I grew up watching everybody dehydrating food here in this area. Right. And it's easy to do here because we have, 100-degree days a lot of the summer. The thing now is making sure you have some kind of a screen or something because of the flies between the product and the air. So as far as the best dehydrator, there are some very expensive ones that are very nice, but I have the same thing you have, Joy, the circular one that I stack, and that works well for me.
Well, sorry, what is the
Are
brand
you,
of the dehydrators? that you're using, that you enjoy your using, Bobby?
Well,
Um,
well, we will say that we don't endorse any brand, but I have a Nesco, Nesco, and it comes with, let me look, 4 trays, and I think you can get it. You can just keep stacking them. I don't know how effective it gets after like 8 or something, but you can just keep buying them. And the picture that I had, I think that's an Excalibur one from another Master Gardener, which they're very popular and they go on sale periodically. And I know there are other ones. Bob, you had another one that we took a picture, or you had a picture of, but I don't know what
right. And I don't remember what the brand of that one is, but it
the
quit like all electronic things eventually
right,
do.
right. And that one had it was the vertical one, but the fan and the heating element was at the bottom. So
Right.
that's a different one. You just kind of have to see what works for you. But like the stackable ones are a little cheaper to start with. And if you get into it, then you could move into the other one. But um, I don't have experience with those other ones.
All right, thank you.
Great.
You're welcome.
So then a related question from Stacy is, do you have any recommendations for a dehydrator for a newbie? So I think we pretty much addressed it unless there's anything else you want to add.
Um, I mean, I started out with the round one because I'm someone who, if I get into it, I'll upgrade, but I'm trying not to get the highest end thing unless I know I'm going to use it. And it's super easy. You just there are even the round ones that don't even have a timer. It just has you plug it in and there's not even an on switch. You plug it in, it just goes on. You put the time, you put the temperature, and then it just goes. So that would be really, really simple. And it does come with a little, what do you call it? A little recipe book that says like, oh, if you want to do like jerky or all fruits and vegetables and, all the things that you can make a fruit leather, which we will be covering in another class. Um, there's a lot of ways to use your dehydrator. Actually, it's very versatile.
Mhm.
And then I saw another picture, or another question about texture. What's the question?
That was part of an earlier question, so we can go past that one. The other question was, is mold the main problem with dehydrated fruit? What about botulism?
Bobby?
Botulism is not prevalent with anything that is in oxygen. You have
It's when
to,
it's
if you have
anaerobic.
oxygen, you don't have botulism. You
Right.
might have other kinds of mold or other kinds of problems, but not botulism. The,
Right. All right. And then the question for you, Joy, where did you find the food safe desiccant?
It's pretty easy to find. And but I just ordered it online and you can get like a package of like 100 and I do not remember how much it was. It was not that much money. But once you start dehydrating, you start to go through them and you could put them in everything. But I think they're really cost effective.
Great. And let's do one more and then we'll go on to the next section and then we can always come back to additional questions at the end. So the part about conditioning got past me. That is an important point that not everybody knows about. So can you just recap the conditioning again, Joy?
Sure. So once you pull them off the trays, you put them in an airtight container. And then am I still? Oh, yeah, yes, I'm still. And then you just kind of shake them, right? Just shake them because that loosens them up so that they're not like they don't get stuck to each other. And you just need to do that once a day for 7 to 10 days. And what happens is that if there's any like some of your thicker slices might contain a little bit more moisture than your thin ones, it'll equalize the moisture across all of the pieces. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question?
I think you did.
Okay, good.
Okay, there are a couple
you.
more questions. We're going to keep moving in the presentation. We'll come back to additional questions as we have time in the end. All right, let me get back to that presentation.
okay, next slide. Now we're going to be talking about freezing. First of all, why do we want to freeze our strawberries? Well, it reduces the temperature of the food, so the microorganisms cannot grow. And but you have to know it doesn't stop them completely. As soon as it thaws out, it can continue if you did have some kind of bad fruit. Um, it stops any of the organic spoilers like bacteria, yeast, and mold. They multiply quickly. It slows that down. Not doesn't completely stop it, but it slows it down enough to keep them safe. Um, the environmental spoilers, freezer burn, oxidation, and ice crystals, that would be if they weren't packaged correctly, if they were still getting air to them while they were in the freezer. So that could be a problem uh, later just from not doing it, not storing them correctly. Um, Go ahead to good. Thank you. Right here, we're going to talk about methods for freezing strawberries. We talked earlier about sorting them, and that's what I did. I sorted out the flat of strawberries I had. Then I cut the biggest ones that were really nice looking in half. I kept the smaller ones that were good looking strawberries whole. And then I sliced the rest and put them on a pan to freeze. Um, Go ahead, next slide, please. Oh, and our third way that we can freeze them is to puree. So here you can see I have some of the strawberries that I pureed for this demonstration. However, I have to say it was difficult to do it because they were all good-looking strawberries. To make it worth my while, though, you'll see the ice cream I made in a few minutes. Next slide, please. We did add this slide because we didn't do this preparing for the presentation, but one of our fellow master food preservers did do this. And what we're basically doing is putting the strawberries in a container and then filling it with some kind of liquid. Um, it's another way. I don't really do this. I would just wanted people to be aware that that is another option for you. You determine how sweet it's going to be by how much sweetener you put in your syrup, or you could just use water or some kind of juice. Next slide, please. Oh, questions. That was quick. Seemed like I missed
All
something.
right. So questions. There are a couple questions. I want to see if any relate to freezing.
That's
I
okay. We can catch up.
You want to catch up? There's a couple more here. So, all right. So we got one here. When you're washing your strawberries, do you recommend using distilled white vinegar? Oh, Joy, you're typing too.
I'm sorry. Was that it? The question was about vinegar?
Vinegar, yes.
Bobby, did you want to?
There's some information on the internet about doing that. I haven't really heard of it with the research information that we have through the agricultural natural resources. So I couldn't say to do that, although I have also seen recommendations to do that to alkalize things, I guess.
And in our research, we found that you don't need to do that. Um, I know that the two of us, we talked about this. We buy organic, so there's not like going to be pesticides on ours. And I think one of the things too is that for strawberries, they're such a delicate fruit. Like every time you introduce some kind of liquid to it, like it really starts that process. And hopefully, if you're inspecting each one, for degradation or cuts or whatever, and you wash it thoroughly, that's enough. But we don't, for master food preservers, it's not that we don't recommend it, but we don't, it's not
Have
something
any
that,
research to back it up?
right, exactly. Thanks, Bobby.
All right, great. All
You-
right. So then going back to the botulism question, there was some clarification around the question really was related to storing in glass bottles. So if they're not vacuum packed, but just airtight, then there's no way for botulism to develop. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, because botulism has to have a lack of oxygen to grow, for those spores to grow. Joy, do you remember how to say the name of the?
I knew you were going to ask me. I should have practiced before.
I should have too. I could say it if I, but the spores don't grow if they have oxygen. And so since we haven't vacuum packed anything, there's oxygen in that jar.
Right. We need to cut
Oxygen
that part out
required.
that we didn't
Yeah.
know how to say it because we practiced it a lot in class.
Botulinum. Uh,
Any other any trainees who just
yeah, everybody else said. Yeah.
It's Clostridium botulinum.
Oh, nice job.
Yeah, great. Okay, we got to splice out that first part and then keep that other part. Thank you so much for saving us.
All right. So Stacy asks if I wanted to put dehydrated strawberries into Mylar bags after conditioning, would I also use oxygen absorbers? I use these for long-term storage or on pantry items like flour, rice, and beans. So an oxygen absorber.
Yeah, I definitely would throw one in there. I mean, I'll keep it if there's any lingering moisture, it'll help for long, especially if you're putting it in a Mylar bag. It sounds like you're going to be keeping it for a while because these could actually, I mean, we say up to 1 year for best taste and texture and all that. But I mean, if you put it in a Mylar bag and you're doing the whole thing, the whole prepping thing, then yeah, definitely I would throw one in there.
Okay, great. And then one more, how long do strawberries last in the freezer when frozen fresh?
They last at least 6 months. Although I have to tell you, I took a package out from last week, and they were as good as new. But I had packaged them really well. No ice crystals got to them at all, and they were still good almost a year later.
How did you use them? What were you thinking of using them for?
Oh, that day I was making strawberry shortcake.
Your family always. Bobby is amazing. Her whole family's been living on strawberry
Yeah,
shortcakes for
they
the
like
last
when I
3
do a
weeks.
presentation.
Lucky,
Yeah.
lucky. Okay, so that's it for the questions for now. We'll
All right,
we'll
thank
keep
you.
moving
Great
along in the
questions, everyone.
presentation. Great.
Yeah, that was great. Ideas for using preserved strawberries. Next slide.
So for
And
dehydrated strawberries, obviously you can eat them as a snack, add them to your trail mix. You can add them to cereal, oatmeal, and yogurt. You can add them to baked goods. You can rehydrate them a little bit before you put them into the mix, so that if it doesn't throw off any kind of ratio for when you're making your baked goods. And you could make strawberry powder. Now, like this was like a clamshell that started with a clamshell of like 2.5 pounds or something like that, 2 pounds. And it made this. And then I was sort of kind of snacking on them. So this is not actually all of them, but to make them into like a tiny bit, I wasn't ready to make the powder. But I think there are other ways that people use dehydrated strawberries, and I wanted to open the floor. What are other ways that you all use dehydrated strawberries? Laura, did you have something?
Sure, I'll share. Well, in my house, I have kids, and we make something called special drinks, which is just basically no, it really is. They're not adult beverages. That they're just special drinks. That's what it's called because it's special because it has something different every time. It might have a little juice. It might have a little lemon. Like whatever you have, just throw it in there and put some sparkling water. But like having some dehydrated strawberries or dehydrated fruit to put on top and float in there just makes it look extra fancy. So that's why they're so special.
nice.
Excellent. Any other ideas from the crowd? You can come off mute. Nothing?
I think also that just snacking on them. I can't imagine anybody having those a year later. Like I think I would dehydrate something and my kids would just eat it up within a couple days probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how you lasted with that, Joy.
It's really hard. Well, I was thinking I was going to make powder. Um, and then I said, I have to save some. And then I noticed my husband would like sneak in here and I'm like, no, don't touch that. That's for my class. But yeah, I think they're really great because it really intensifies the flavor because all the sugars are like concentrated and it's a snack without adding extra sugar. And you know, right now, as you can see, like we all get flats of strawberries and there's different ways to it. And then different ways to prepare them and preserve them. And sometimes you just need to like keep one that you're going to keep for like years. So honestly, this one lasts only like now that I'm done with the class, it will not last the week. So I need to get another flat.
I think there's a couple suggestions in the chat.
Let's see what we have here.
Okay.
Oh,
I use Louisa dehydrated strawberries to make liquors. That's a great idea. Broken up in granola. Ooh, I like that
oh,
idea.
that's a good idea.
Great idea.
I know you can make shrubs with the fresh fruit.
Mhm.
And we can send some information about that. And says, did we answer all the questions? I just want to check here.
There's a couple questions.
About freezing?
If we want to pause or if we want to take it to the end. Yeah, they're about freezing.
We have plenty of time.
All
It's up to
right.
you.
Well, yeah, sure. Well, let's throw this one in. Why do you freeze strawberries in? Okay, sorry, I misspoke. So when you freeze strawberries in freezer bags, do you need to add wax paper between the layers?
I don't, and I haven't. And I've never really had them stick together, but I freeze them ahead of time. So if I freeze them ahead of time, they're already frozen. Then I put them into the bags. As long as they don't get to thaw at all, they're still separate. And I can use them to put in a smoothie or anything. Take out one or take out a handful.
I mean, I think that's the key thing is that you do a kind of a pre-freeze, like at a single layer, and then
Exactly.
and then you can kind of do what you want with them, and they don't need to
And
be on
then,
a single layer because they won't bunch up unless, yeah, as you
right.
said, is unless there's like a power outage or something, or
The single layer is just to do the freezing, and then we should put them into the bags
right,
or the whatever container. I
right,
don't know what
and make sure you label them,
label, and date.
yes, and date.
Next slide.
Okay.
Now, and ideas for using the preserved strawberries when they're frozen. Here you can see we had strawberry shortcake last week, and we made smoothies as well. And in that third picture, we have ice cream, and so and I also use them in cereal like oatmeal, to help flavor my oatmeal. Next slide. Oh, Joy.
We wanted to wrap this up with a little chart. How should I preserve my strawberries? And Bobby, jump in if I forget something. But
You bet.
here's kind of a general guideline. If it's ripe but small, you can freeze them whole. If they're large, and we're talking about like no blemishes, you can freeze them, or you can dehydrate them in slices, as I did. If they're overripe,
I did. Mhm.
you know, Bobby made a puree. And if they're overripe and not perfect, you can puree them and then you can make a jam or a fruit leather. And it so happens we have another class that's going to go over the fruit leather and jam a week from today.
Good plug, Joy. I like that plug.
Next.
Nice
great.
job.
All right. So next is just questions. That completes the presentation portion. So we'll take some more questions if anybody wants to just unmute and ask a question, or you can continue typing in the Q&A if you like.
Hi, I have a question. I hope you can hear me. My name is Lee Jordan. I'm coming from California, and I had a question about the last slide for the puree and the fruit leather. basically, I did see in the chat looking for a good recipe for the fruit leather, but if we're using overripe and not perfect strawberries, how is the flavor going to be affected if I was to do the puree method? I'm wondering if it would be more or less of a strawberry flavor.
I think it would still be very much of a strawberry flavor. It would, because it would be, it's overripe. I mean, so it's going to have more flavor as long as it's not so ripe that it's changes the flavor. Then I might not use it at all.
Right. Thank you very much.
You
Very
bet.
good question.
There's another question from Anonymous. What do you use strawberry powder for?
You can use it in smoothies. You can, I mean, you could just use it. It's, you just think of it as if storage is an issue for you, you can use it in the same ways to have the strawberry flavor in anything that you're cooking with. And I keep thinking my smoothies, and baked goods. Yeah, and Bobby, can you help out? I don't know if there's
Well,
any
I'm
other-
thinking you could also put it if you make if you bake, you could mix
Yeah.
that for the flavor. You could put that into a lot of different baked goods, from cakes to, you know, to muffins.
I mean, it's sort of like that. I can't remember what it's called, but you know, strawberry powder that you make into a like a milkshake thing. I can't remember when we were growing up. I might be dating myself.
Strawberry milk.
Yes. I was gonna say, I'm not gonna say the brand name, but I don't remember the brand. I can see it in
Yeah.
my head, the brand name.
You could potentially.
That would be real strawberry milk too, instead
Yeah,
of
yeah, for
the
sure.
store.
That's another thing. We do use fruit powders in our special drinks. I know I keep plugging the special drinks, but like if there,
No,
you
that's
could put,
good.
you know, just put a little powder in your sparkling water and have a nice little. Oh, and then the question came in, how do you make the strawberry powder? Is it a blender or a food processor? What do you do?
Well, you just take your slices and then I just put it in like a spice grinder. Yeah. I say spice grinder, not necessarily a blender because it can't get it as fine, but it depends on what you want, how you want to use it too. I mean, it doesn't have to be like, all I can think of is the quick, I can't remember what it's called, but,
Well, and a coffee grinder as well,
yeah,
something
as long
like
as it
that.
can get kind of fine, that's good. But I don't think a food processor can get it that fine. So usually coffee grinder, I have a spice grinder, but it's like small, so I can't do a lot at the same time.
The ones just set in frostings.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
I-
also
I-
getting some good ideas in the
That's a
chat.
great idea.
Yeah,
Macaroons
great
and
idea.
frostings.
I love
Kim,
hearing things like that.
did
from
you
you.
have a question, Kim?
I was just thinking, I am a master food preserver also, but I bartended for a long time. And I think it'd be really fun to rim a summer drink. Could be alcoholic, could be non-alcoholic, with just little citrus to wet the rim, and the strawberry powder on there would be festive and nice. Or even mixed in with like mascarpone or something as a dessert topping. I don't know. I would find ways to use the powder.
I mean, any way that
Love
you
it.
want to use that, get that
Yeah.
flavor in your
Yeah.
food. That's a great idea. We didn't mention the mocktails, but yes, you can. I mean, I guess you can use the slices too for decoration. They're really pretty, and then they smell really good. Like your house will smell great doing dehydration of strawberries. I'll tell you. Thank you so much.
Love it. Great idea.
Well,
All right, I don't see any other questions. We'll give it, anybody else have another question, put in the Q&A or just come on off of mute. Should I take us through our final?
I
Sure.
think so. Thank you, everybody, for
I'll
coming.
take the final. We just have a couple of things to share with you here as we go. First of all, there was a question in the chat that said, do you have a good fruit leather recipe? Well, thank you for teeing that up, Shelley. We do have a good fruit leather recipe that we'll be sharing next week at the same time for strawberries too. So part 2, leather and jam. So please come back, consider coming back to join us again, or catching the recording of that, and we'll share a great fruit leather recipe. Also, we have a monthly Ask a Master Food Preserver. Yeah, that's a tongue twister, isn't it? Ask a Master Food Preserver. We have a monthly on the first Wednesday of the month. So we have one coming up on July 2nd. And then if you want to keep in touch with us, we have a monthly newsletter you can sign up for. Like us on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course, if you're interested in becoming a master food preserver, we have some information on that. So if you take the survey, we really need your input. So please, when you leave the Zoom session, a survey is going to pop up. Please take that survey so that we could fine tune our programming. And when you do that, when you take the survey, you'll get the slides afterwards in a few days. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time and interest. We'll stay on for a couple more minutes. Just you feel free to drop off, or if you want to chat more about strawberries, feel free. We can give it a couple more minutes. Thanks everybody for being here.